welcome the Honourable Premier who has joined us, and apologies for the slight delay. Our media briefing today, which is focused largely, with COVID-19 still on our minds, but largely focusing on the way forward. So the Premier has delivered the State of the Province address, and arising from that is going to take us through the issues and other matters that are critical for the state of our province. Without any further delay, I will hand over to the Honourable Premier.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Mabaso. My humble greetings to all of you. May I sincerely apologize that we were supposed to start at 12 and we are starting at 12:30. We really apologize for that because of circumstances that were beyond our control. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen from the media, we wish to extend our warm welcome to all of you to this briefing. We also wish to greet all citizens of the beautiful province of KwaZulu-Natal who are watching these proceedings from home. Once again, it is our sincere belief that we should always speak with transparency and openness on all matters of provincial importance. Today's briefing is intended to give an update on emerging developments since the delivery of the State of the Province address on the 24th of February this year. While we will enter on such issues, may we take this time and opportunity to pay tribute to His Majesty, King Zwelithini Kabhekuzu. We have gathered today in a month of March, which is one of the most painful months in the history of the Zulu nation, as it marked exactly a year since the demise of His Majesty, King Zwelithini Kabhekuzu. This is a week that reminds us that we are still a nation in pain because of the role the late His Majesty had occupied as the father and the unifier of the nation. We had not imagined life without him. It is because of this reason that his demise plunged the province and the whole country and beyond into a sea of untold grief. However, as fate would have it, we had to learn to live with the sobering reality that he is no more after he was called to higher service. Despite his demise, he still lives in our collective minds and hearts. As we approach the first year since His Majesty's passing on, we have a responsibility to pick up the spear and to march on as we build a better KwaZulu-Natal. In this regard, led by the royal family, as KwaZulu-Natal and the people of the province, we stand ready to play our supportive role where appropriate and required in order to ensure that activities to commemorate the legacy of the late His Majesty the King is a success. As we indicated during the State of the Province address, ours is to draw on the collective goodwill of all people of KwaZulu-Natal and to turn the corner toward the KZN that is truly united and at peace with itself. Our program this year is to intensify the work of healing our communities from the scars of both COVID-19, the July unrest, and indeed the passing of His Majesty, King Zwelithini, as well as that of the passing of Her Majesty Regent Queen Mantoni. We ask that everyone put our royal family and the nation in prayer as we remember His Majesty. When we begin to reflect on economic recovery for KwaZulu-Natal, we must emphasize that the provincial administration want to be more performance-driven, measurable, and impactful in changing the lives of the people of the province. Indeed, we want to exercise more agility and precision in delivering the agenda of economic transformation and in attracting investment to the province within the context of a global economy that is still recovering after being battered by the COVID-19 pandemic. It is against this background that our focal areas for the year 2022 will be working better and faster to prioritize the following areas: economic recovery and creation of jobs, improving access to water and sanitation, fighting crime and building safer communities, social protection and human development, building a capable and a capacity of the state, building a better Africa and a better world. Now, firstly, if we engage on the issue of the economy, ladies and gentlemen, the path to economic recovery will be long and sometimes hard. But we have no doubt that indeed, at the end, we will turn the corner and triumph against all odds. Our government continues to engage with local investors and businesses, and next week we will host a summit of the KwaZulu-Natal Growth Coalition on the South Coast. This activity will bring together the government and more than 100 CEOs of companies that are based in KwaZulu-Natal. Our target is to address unemployment rate, which has now risen to 28.7% from about 23% before COVID-19 pandemic. It is also to undo creeping corporate corruption, failure of companies to invest in infrastructure and in skills development, lack of sustainable energy generation, and instability created by criminal activities of some business forums. Our economic recovery program seeks to address and introduce economic reforms anchored on radical socio-economic transformation and a greater participation in the mainstream economy by the majority of the people of the province. The green shoots of our economic recovery are beginning to surface. As the year 2022 begins, the following investments have already been recorded. Capita BPO is investing 120 million, and that will create 500 jobs in the province. The coastal Blethervale Resort is moving now to implement the project that has been earmarked for a few years, and this will be the investment of 800 million, and this will at the end create 2,000 jobs. Nganawe Holding for manufacturing of tractors is investing 800 million and will create 200 jobs at the Richards Bay Industrial Development Zone site. This week, during its sitting, the Executive Council took a decision to submit key strategic projects for consideration and funding by the African Export and Import Bank, the African Bank. African is a pan-African multilateral trade finance institution. In the initial phase, the province is submitting its portfolio of agri-hub projects. Agri-hubs are key catalytic projects which have a huge potential for job creation and economic growth. Agri-hubs portfolio include the red meat hub, which will include cattle abattoir, piggery, goat, sheep abattoir, deboning facility, distribution center. While the grain handling hub will focus on white, yellow mills, beans and soya beans. Fresh produce hub will deal with bulk vegetables, distribution, vegetable processing, banana handling. The dairy hub, which incorporate raw milk tanks and UHT facility, will also have a distribution center and a factory for amasi as well as yogurt. These are based in various districts of the province. We believe that agriculture presents enormous potential and opportunities for investment and will go a long way in stimulating economic growth and attracting direct investment to this province. But while we emphasize on agri-hubs, is that we want to exploit the whole value chain. While we will build the hubs, what is important is that people who will be feeding to these hubs will be ordinary people from local communities. Whether you talk of dairy or you talk of grain, we want a situation where those who are involved in subsistence farming and those who are small-scale farmers have a platform where their produce is processed. And this is about a scaling into a value addition. With regard to cannabis industry, following the announcement in the State of the Nation's address by His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa, we are pleased to announce that KwaZulu-Natal has taken a major step, including establishing the cannabis industry in the province. We have since formed a multidisciplinary committee to develop the KZN cannabis industry. The potential of this industry is estimated at about 28 billion in South Africa, with a potential to create between 10 to 20,000 jobs, 10,000 to 20,000 jobs across the entire value chain. Therefore, the establishment of the cannabis industry will lead to diversification of the economy, create jobs, increase economic growth, and contribute to poverty alleviation. The Provincial Cannabis Committee will be responsible for growing this industry through ensuring adherence to regulatory systems, seed supply system, research, and technology development. It will also drive the sustainable producer system, market and supply development system, manufacturing and product development, education and training, communication and awareness. With regard to 10 million grant relief for rural and township shops, following the KZN July 2021 unrest and a survey done by the Department of Economic Development, Tourism and Environmental Affairs, the KwaZulu-Natal provincial government have approved an intervention aimed at providing a relief grant for rural and township shops that were affected by the looting and the unrest. The grant is an amount of up to 20 million, an amount of up to 20,000 per shop, and will assist more than 500 shops across the province with trading stock, excluding alcohol and related products. The funding intervention addresses the challenges faced by rural and township businesses which were affected but were left out due to underreporting during the July mayhem. The provincial government has since reprioritized 10 million, which will be a grant funding targeting these businesses. The application forms will be available at 8-tier offices and will be subjected to verification processes to ensure that really deserving people and qualifying shops receive this support. As we announced that we are increasing the fund to support young people through the KZN Youth Business Development Fund, we're increasing it from 50 million to 100 million this financial year. The process to invite applications is being processed and will be announced in due course. We will announce the beneficiaries of the 2021 support in the coming months. Youth entrepreneurs and the creative and their creative ideas to grow our economy and reduce unemployment is the priority for this government. In establishment of Zimele Traders Fund for the rural and township shops, ladies and gentlemen, in a major boost for township and rural economy, the provincial government of KwaZulu-Natal approved the Zimele Traders Fund, a KZN-led program to uplift community-based rural and township shops through the provision of the working capital loan funding and the payment automation facilities. This fund will provide shops and general dealers with support to transform their businesses into viable shopping outlets, offering a one-stop shopping experience. The loan amount will be anything up to 100,000 per qualifying shop, and the shops will be supported with pay point machines at no cost to the shop owners. This form of support is a first of its kind toward rural and township shops. This funding initiative will be implemented under 8-tier. It will give an opportunity to rural and township shops to contribute to the economy and assist in the post-COVID-19 economic recovery program. The conditions for the support under this fund are, among others, that the shop must be located in townships or in rural areas owned by South Africans, and that must be proven. With regard to the resumption of the SAA flight between Durban and Johannesburg, we wish to join MEC Pillay in welcoming the resumption of the flights between Durban and Johannesburg. He was there on our behalf as government to welcome the first flight landing in King Shaka International Airport. This is a crucial milestone in growing our economy and domestic capacity on the essential route of Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal. The past 22 months since SAA terminated the Durban route have been particularly difficult. However, as government, we have never stopped engaging SAA and the national government, even as the airline was repackaging its business model. This is a fresh start and a timely boost to our economic recovery effort. It strengthens our augment and further augment that Durban route is a significant one in the revival of the aviation industry in South Africa. We also wish to reflect on the Constitutional Court judgment on public government tenders. We have noted the latest concern regarding a circular from National Treasury instructing departments to hold procurement in abeyance. This follows the recent Constitutional Court judgment which declared the 2017 preferential procurement regulations invalid. In response, the National Treasury issued a communique to all organs of the state to stop issuing tenders until it has received clarification from the court as to whether the regulations will still be valid up until February 2023 or not. On behalf of the provincial government, we wish to state that we are concerned with the paralysis and the backlog in the supply chain that this will create. It is our view that this decision amounts to a possible liquidation of government services. The Executive Council is therefore supporting every effort by the national government to speedily resolve this matter. We will be engaging with national government in this regard. Our view has always been that the transformation of the economy through a legal instrument such as the preferential procurement regulations is a precondition for the creation of an inclusive economy that will serve the interest of all South Africans. It therefore stands to reason that we need to do everything necessary to ensure that we support the National Treasury from those who are launching a deliberate onslaught on our collective effort to drive the agenda of remodeling our economic structure so that it benefits all South Africans. We have heard the cries of the people for the return to stadiums. It has become clear that through our collective effort to stem the tide of the damage caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, we've made enormous strides to learn to coexist with this deadly virus through all the necessary interventions that we have adopted. We want to say that the fact that COVID-19 is no longer dominating headlines, it's not an indication that it is not existing anymore and that it is not so a deadly threat. There are people in hospitals, new infections and deaths being recorded. So we urge citizens to remain vigilant and follow all safety protocols. We want to indicate that we have heard the growing concerns from the sporting fraternity, the fans, and other related industry players about the need to open up stadiums for fans to attend sporting events. One of the world's most popular derbies was played yesterday between Orlando Pirates and Kaizer Chiefs to an empty stadium. Later this evening, the match, the Manchester derby between Manchester City and Manchester United will be played to a capacity of about 55,000 spectators. That is the capacity of Etihad Stadium. So sports has an impact beyond what happens in the field of play. Sporting activities have a cascading effect in the whole economic system, including informal economy. In this regard, we've heard the calls from the informal traders that the closure of stadiums owing to the situation beyond our control has negatively affected their businesses. We are following with interest the medical and scientific advice about the COVID-19 curve flattening as numbers in all provinces are going down. We will further raise these concerns with relevant authorities in this regard. We believe that it is high time that when we meet with and engage with the Presidential Coordinating Council, we also present the views of the people of KwaZulu-Natal with regard to the opening of stadiums. And their feeling is clear, is that we must open up and we must allow people to go back. As to whether the scientific researches and studies will indicate the same or altering that view, but we believe that there is a need to listen to the growing concern of the people. We have, through the Department of Economic Development, Tourism, Environmental Affairs, approached the Department of Minerals and Energy, expressing our concern at the imminent closure of Sapref refinery in Durban. The closure of Sapref, which has been part of KwaZulu-Natal since 1963, will have devastating economic consequences on employment in the province. This is our primary concern, as we are currently in a process of attracting investments and rejuvenating business activities as part of our economic recovery plan. For this reason, government has to closely engage with the process, with the view that we would want to serve and protect jobs, as well as the investments in the province. At the same time, as you will be aware, the world is moving toward a greener economy, a carbon-free world, and planning for the cost of convention to adapt to this new reality. As a co-chair for Africa of the Under-2 Coalition on Climate Change, we are charged with the responsibility to drive the creation of a better world in which renewable and cleaner energy is the engine of economic growth. As we engage with Sapref, led by the Department of Minerals and Energy, we will take all these factors into consideration and make sure that whatever decision that emerges at the end, it must be in the best interest of the people of KwaZulu-Natal and South Africa, and an aid effort of creating a greener economy without compromising jobs for our people. With that, I wish to thank you all colleagues. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Honourable Premier, for the statement. Can we take the questions? Those colleagues, if there's anything online that is coming as well, you give an indication of colleague Bubu. I will take the first round from the colleagues that are inside the house here. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In that order, you introduce and make the house. The protocol, I think you're all familiar with it. Over to you.
I'm Tandela from the Sofia newspapers. Premier, you mentioned that you're going to be standing ready to support as a supporting role to your house. Can you give us more what supportive role that you're going to be playing? Because we know that there is this upcoming event that needs financially boost. They said of coal in the Ogu gets always gold and so on. So if you say you're going to be playing a supportive role, what kind of support you're going to be offering in Loko?
Okay, thank you.
So I understand that we had the and I think I'm not sure whether it's right. So last week the province said it is going to work cater home time and night. Now that on Friday, so we saw a statement coming from on the side saying the king can't go there, therefore the king wants to be at work and everything. We want to know where government will be going. Also, the issue of supplement. So in the setup, before his advice, the Premier said he was going to engage the national government. So I want to know the focus on that. End of March, so workers will be
just a clarity on Funga's question, Premier, on whether the event by the provincial government of the memorial service of the late King, is it aligned or the same one that Prince Telezi has been talking about, saying he's over Bakhangela Mangenga, Noma, Naninzoinza, Fundazwe, Waketom Tandai, then the Royal House, Bakhangela Mangenga. Obviously, Premier Suguba, interviews you mentioned the provincial government is still studying the judgment on the Royal House matter. Maybe are we gonna in any near future hear the stance of the provincial government commenting on the issue, or is Oishela with office of the president, since the matter is being handled by the president, especially the coronation matter? Thank you.
Mohan Kema from SAPC. Well, I'm also basically adding to the questions asked by my colleague. Regarding, we saw a statement by Prince Sihle saying that the royal family was not informed by the event or the memorial service that is going to be held by the provincial government. We just want to know your reaction to this. Is the Prince Mangosuthu really telling us the truth about that? And also, what Mohan Gila asked regarding the coronation after the judgment from the Pietermaritzburg High Court, basically giving a green light to the coronation. Can you just tell us the progress? Has there been any progress made after the judgment?
Okay, that's good.
My name is Lando from the Witness newspaper. My first question is around the issue of the economy. Premier, when you came in as Premier a few years ago, you pledged to stamp out corruption within government. And there have been a few initiatives that you announced to deal with corruption. But there is this criticism that when corruption is exposed by law enforcement agencies such as the SIU or the Treasury, the provincial government is slow in implementing the recommendations of the investigations. Your response on that. And there is also an issue around the fact that, as we know, that there has been a slowdown in economic growth, coupled, of course, by the issue of the impact of COVID. And one of the impact of that is that government's resources are seriously constrained. Then there is this issue of the salary bill around the Izinduna, to say that going forward, the government has indicated in the past that there isn't enough money to implement that. I just want to understand what's the current situation around the salary bill. And also, Premier, on the issue of the 20,000 that you mentioned for the small businesses in townships. I know that we know that you were once the Economic Development MEC, and you interacted with the small businesses in townships. And some people say there isn't any locally owned businesses in townships. They have all been taken over by. Was that your assessment and understanding when you dealt with the issue? Thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Taken over by.
Taken over by foreign nationals.
Yes.
So the local townships taken over
Okay.
by foreign nationals.
No, thanks. I think the questions generally are grouped into three categories. The first category is that of the issues pertaining to the Royal House. The second category is governance or issues about corruption. And the third is the issue of the economy. And let me take the opportunity to thank you for all of these questions. The first category, and I'm putting them in these categories so that I don't answer one by one. The first, the issue of coronation will be done after the president exhausts processes that are involved. So that is left with the presidency. We did submitted everything, and it is with the presidency. With regard to the impact of the judgment, also I believe the presidency will engage with the judgment and then see whether it impact or not impact in the coronation processes. So that is the first. With regard to the ceremony, I think we should understand the statement we issued was clear. The government of the province was engaged by queens of the late king that we must host the prayer, which we agreed on. We agreed on, and we went public on that, and subsequent to that, the Prince Wagwapindangene went further to say there have been an engagement, I believe, with Queen Mother and the Queens. And therefore, the prayer will be at KwaKangela. In our statement today, I hope you've listened that we said, led by the Royal House. So it's not our prayer, but the prayer will be led by the Royal House. Whether the prayer will be as announced by Prince Buthelezi, the government will be informed and we will follow those processes. Whether there will be need for financial engagement and support, that will be discussed in the process. So I think that summarizes and address all questions around this. We are not going to convene a prayer as government. We had no intention to convene a prayer without the Royal House. We were approached, we responded positively, more so because that was a collective approach coming from the queens of the late king. And in respect of the late king, we then took that. And the subsequent engagement that took place after that, we believe that will also help us to clarify processes going forward. So let me leave it at that level. With regard to the second issue of corruption, governance, and specifically corruption, we are dealing with all issues. We're implementing all SIU's report that are given to us. The reports are given to departments that are affected, and those departments must then implement such reports. If there's a report that is not implemented, as a coordinating office, we remain open to take up that report and ensure that it is implemented. The provincial government, with the office of the Premier as the coordinating department, we have to ensure that we follow on the implementation of such reports. With regard to the issue of the economy, firstly, the grant is meant to support small businesses, especially that operate in rural areas, the shops, spazas, and all of that. Yes, there is an acknowledgement that some shops have been taken over by people of foreign nationals. We must work guided by law to ensure that that space is opened up for the people who are local. We initiated a number of programs. Remember, there was a bulk buying where we say we must have a bulk buying for traders in townships. There must then be this grant that support them. But on top of that, there must be an available loan where they can be supported. For us, it is to create an environment where small businesses are supported. And we do so because we also support big businesses. We support big businesses. If you go to those who are in our SEZ, the special economic zones, you will see that they get incentives either in terms of the tax relief or in terms of particular incentives that they get. So we also are equally responsible to support small businesses. I think with regard to SAPREF, we have met, I've personally had an engagement, a meeting with Minister Mantashe. We discussed this matter, and he welcomed the proposal, our call, that the government must take over. We must also understand what we are raising here. Number of companies are going through challenges. The first challenge is that as we evolve, companies are required to continuously upgrade their infrastructure. And if you don't do so, the future will catch up with you. And then you will find it difficult to sustain your business operations. The second one is the fact that as we embrace green economy or green energy, some companies see other alternatives better than moving in transition, investing in the same equipments they have and all of that, because they will have to upgrade the equipments and all of the infrastructure they have. Some will even say, no, it's better to import a final product. So those are issues that are nitty-gritties of various business operations currently. Ours is to support them, but in a way that does not compromise and affect the jobs in the province and in the country. Thanks. I think I've touched to all questions that were asked.
Thank you very much, Honourable Premier, for that. I don't know who could have anything online.
Yes, I do. Premier, I've got a question from Mary Papaya for Business Day. And she says, please can you have an update on the SAPREF deal? What kind of takeover are we talking about in terms of government ownership? And when will the Premier be addressing the community on the matter? On the cannabis proposal announced by the President during the SONA and touched on by the Premier in his SOTA address, what are the financial projections for KZN? And how many jobs for the province, and which areas of the province are we talking about? Thanks, Premier.
Is that the only?
My question on the Izinduna Saddle bill.
Oh, yes.
Is it doing so? As we're wrapping up here, and then
Can I add on is doing?
okay. So I think you are also on is doing.
Yes, but this one is was my course. Premier, remember, I think we're busy with preparation for the SOPA. The public protector was here, and she said this last year her office issued a report which found that there's a strained relationship between the province, some departments, government departments, and Amakosi, and she said the province had been given 15 days to write back to her with a plan to remedy the strained relationship, but a year after, she hasn't found the report.
Okay. Okay. Is it doing a public protector? Your last one?
Locals had owned these shops. Now they rented them to foreigners. Now the shop is owned by a local. Now who's going to apply? Because is no longer running the shop, but he owns the shop. I don't understand what will happen. I see a problem there. He may apply and take money for himself, but the shop is run by foreigner and all those things. So, in the issue of tenders, I'm not going to say whether it's those potential tenders that have been cancelled or the tender is still not.
No, thanks. Maybe starting with the issue of Izinduna, we've got a good relationship with the Office of the Public Protector. And if there was such a report, we would have got it and ensure that it is followed and implemented. We will follow up on that and ensure that if there were issues raised, those issues are taken forward. With regard to Izinduna, we have been paying Izinduna, and we continue to do so. We are doing so knowing that we have financial constraints. And we are continuing because it is a task we must do, given that the law regulates that. With regard to the issue of local shops, we are not going to be funding people who have rent out their spazas and shops. So I must be clear on that. It should be a business that is owned and operated by a South African. There are companies that have previously applied, and when you get in, you get that no, in terms of the document, it's South African who is applying, and in terms of the operations, it's someone else. Then you need to do a thorough due diligence in a way of going to even the bank's account to satisfy yourself. So that is the route we will take. We will not want to take the route which will land us in a situation where either people rob the state and get money for themselves while businesses are operated by others. So that's what we will do. With regard to SAPREF, I believe I've addressed that in detail. Cannabis, we have said that the cannabis industry in the country as a whole has a potential of creating, or is about 28 billion worth. So that is generally the country, and could create between 10,000 jobs to 20,000. We are working on specific details for that, or from that. But what we know is that KwaZulu-Natal and Eastern Cape are the main provinces that must benefit from this industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Premier. I think we just request a summary, Mr. Zulu, for one colleague that will kill me here, and then we will wrap it up.
No, thanks. Sicela ukubingelela kunina nonke, sibonge ukuba nani. Sihlangene la namuhla kulenyanga kaMarch, okuyinyanga uthina njengesizwe samaZulu esingeke sayikhohlwa, ngoba inyanga la ilanga lasishonela khona emini ngomhla ka-12 kaMarch ngo-2021 kubuza imbube. Uma imbube idlula, isizwe sasala silila, and sonke sasingazi ukuthi sizoba yini, ngoba sasingakaze sicabange impilo without ubayede. Siyazi ke ukuthi indlunkulu isemalungiselelweni omkhuleko wokukhumbula ibayede. Sizosupporta silekelele kukho konke, kodwa siholwa indlunkulu kukhona konke kuwona umcimbi nomkhuleko ukuthi uzoba kanjani. Sibhekene nomsebenzi omkhulu kulandela i-COVID-19 egasele yalimaza umnotho wethu kakhulu, nokulandela futhi idubedube ibe khona ngoJuly ngonyaka odlule. Sihulumeni kuleli sonto esiya kulo sizoba nomhlangano omkhulu la sizobe sihlangene khona ne-KZN Growth Coalition, okuyisakhiwo esakhiwa uhulumeni neyinkampani ezinkulu ezikhona KwaZulu-Natal. Kuvame ukuba ama-CEOs angaphezulu kuka-100. Nakulokhu ke sizohlangana ngoLesine noLesihlanu sibheka ngokujulile ukuthi senze njani ukuqinisekisa ukuthi sinika isupport kuyinkampani ezikhona, inkampani zonke zikhanda amathuba emisebenzi, zikwazi ukuqeqesha abasebenzi ngendlela, futhi sikwazi ukubheka ukuthi senze njani ukudila nento nalolu daba lwe-energy, ukuthi ugesi uhlale ukhona ey'ndaweni zonke, ngoba lento ye-load shedding ikhinyabeza kakhulu umnotho. Noma isimo somnotho singesihle, kusiphatha kahle ukuthi uqala nje unyaka sesibona ama-investments eza KwaZulu-Natal. Lokhu kubalwa iCapita BPO e-investe 120 million ozokhanda imisebenzi engaphezulu ka-500. Ukwakhiwa kwe-resort engasestenga endaweni ebizwa ngeBlethergale ezokhanda amathuba angu-2000 emisebenzi. Inkampani ebizwa ngenqanawe holding eyakha ogandaganda ezoba se-Richards Bay Industrial Development Zone. Nohulumeni waKwaZulu-Natal usesubmithe ku African Bank okuyibank elikhuthaza elixhasa imisebenzi yohwebo eAfrika. Sesubmithe uhlelo lwethu lokwakha indawo esiyibiza ngama-agri-hubs ezine lapha KwaZulu-Natal la okuzobe kwenziwa khona imikhiqizo yezolimo sikwazi ukuprocessa yonke into elinyiwe eyisivuno up until ibe kwizinga la ingadleka khona. Siyafisa futhi ukugcizelela ukuthi enye into esiyibheke kakhulu ukukhulisa i-industry le ebizwa ngecannabis okusho ukuthi kumele sikwazi ukuyakha ngokuthi abantu babe namalungelo okutshala nokuthi sazi ukuthi iprocesseke nabayiprocessayo babe nawo ama-license okuhweba ngoba kubalulekile ukuthi bahwebe ngokusemthethweni. Sakhile ikomiti elino-MECs elizosibhekela lo msebenzi ngokujulile ngoba le industry ingakha amathuba emisebenzi angaphezu ka-10,000 eSouth Africa futhi bakuthi ngocwaningo ivalue yayo ingaba la ko-28 billion. I-industry ke okuzomele siyisebenze ngokushesha nangokuyimisela. Uhulumeni waKwaZulu-Natal usuthathe igxathu lokuxhasa osomabhizinisi especially laba abanezitolo eindaweni ezisemakhaya. Lokhu kulandela ukuthi ngoJuly osomabhizinisi abanezitolo namaspaza emakhaya nasemalokishini balahlekelwa kwezinye indawo ngokuthi impahla zabo zathathwa namabhizinisi abo acekelwa phansi. Uhulumeni ubeke imali engango-20,000 per person or per isitolo leso. Kodwa lokho kubekelwe ukuthi umuntu alandele iprocess eyiyo kube ukuthi umuntu wase-South Africa futhi osirana yena leso sitolo asisebenzelayo. Bazoxhaswa kakhulukazi ngempahla. Okwesibili sibeke osithula uhlelo lwezimele fund olulekelela laba abadayisayo oluzokwazi ukunikezela imali eboliseka eyokubolekwa kubantu abanemisebenzi yokudayisa namabhizinisi amancane asemalokishini nasemakhaya. Sifuna ukugxila kakhulu ukukhulisa umnotho wasemakhaya nomnotho osemalokishini. Siqinisekisa ukuthi abantu abasuki emakhaya bayohlala emadolobheni kodwa neindawo abakuzo emalokishini nasemakhaya ziyakwazi ukuthi kube yindawo ezikhanda amathuba emisebenzi. Njengohulumeni waKwaZulu-Natal siyabonga ukuthi i-SAA isibuyile ukuthi ikwazi ukuba nama-flight between iTheku neJohannesburg. Lokhu kubaluleke kakhulu ngoba enyangeni engu-22 eyidlule kube nokukhinyabezeka kakhulu ngokungabikho kwe-SAA ngoba siyazi ukuthi iTheku liroute ebaluleke kakhulu emnothweni kanti futhi lokhu kuhambisana nokuvikelwa kwamathuba emisebenzi. Njengohulumeni isikhathazile into yokuthi kube ne-judgment evele e-Constitutional Court edeclara ukuthi i-preferential procurement regulations zango-2017 azikho valid. Siyasupport ukuthi uTreasury nationally akaqhubeke ali-aphile lolu daba kodwa uma kuphoqa asibuyekeze umthethosisekelo ukwazi ukuba nama-aspect azosilekelela ukuthi siqhubeke ne-preferential procurement ukuze sikwazi ukulekelela abantu ababecindezela ukuthi bangene emnothweni. Sibonile futhi ukuthi uDG wakwa-Treasury ukhiphe i-communication ethi akumiswe ukushuwishwa kwamathenda okuyinto ebeka engcupheni imisebenzi kahulumeni. Siyaxoxisana nohulumeni kazwelonke kulokho. Lokho ku-affecta kakhulu lawo mathenda abe include the preferential procurement regulations. Ngiyafisa ukugcizelela esikushilo enkulumeni uma sithula i-State of the Province Address. Siyaqhubeka nokukhulumisana nohulumeni kuzwelonke uqinisekisa ukuthi inkampani uSapref ne-refinery yabe la eThekwini ayivalwa. Umbono wethu omkhulu la uthi uhulumeni kumele ubheke indlela zokuthi ukwazi ukuyithenga osibheke ukuthi lamathuba emisebenzi alapha singawavikela kanjani. Siyazi ukuthi enye yeinkinga ezinkulu ezikhona njengamanje ukuthi zonke inkampani sekudinga isebenze ngaphansi kohlelo lwe-green energy okusho ukuthi ugesi ne-energy esetshenziswayo ayihambisane nokuvikeleka kwemvelo. Lokho siyakuvuma futhi siyakusupporta, kodwa kubalekile ukuthi sithi sikhula siya kulelo zinga sibe singayibukeli phansi imisebenzi ekhona. Okugcina ngiyafuna ukuqinisekisa abantu bakwaZulu-Natal ukuthi isikhalo sabo ngokuthi kuvulwe izinkundla zezemidlalo sisizwile. Siyazi ukuthi lesi sikhalo siyiqiniso ngoba akona nje ukuthi ukuvulwa lokhu abantu abacelayo kwezinkundla zemidlalo kusho kuyobuka ibhola noma imidlalo nje kuphela, kodwa kulekelela nosomabhizinisi abancane abadayisayo. Sizokuqinisekisa ukuthi emhlanganweni elandelayo, especially kwi-Presidential Coordinating Council, siyazibeka lezi zikhalo zabantu bakithi ngoba izinto abayishoyo sizizwile, kodwa futhi sithi sizizwile asizibeke singabukeli futhi phansi ini ukuthi i-COVID-19 isekhona. Yingakho sithi masiqhubeke nokuyivikela sikwazi ukuthi siphephe kulesi sifo esigadle umhlaba wonke. Siyabonga.
Thank you very much, Honorable Premier, and thank you very much to all the colleagues. We'll adjourn at this point until next time. We'll be advising you. We continue, even though we're no longer talking too much about COVID, but all the matters relevant to the COVID